Welcome back to First Alarm Family First. I'm Carolyn Acosta here with Jen Herrera, and we're so glad you're tuning in today. We have a special guest, Diane Taylor, and Jen will take it on from here.
I have been so excited to get Diane on the podcast. I met Diane a short time ago and was immediately impressed with her when it comes to her knowledge about turmeric. A lot of us have heard about turmeric. We know it's good for us. Sure, we're supposed to take it. Sure, we're supposed to drink it, but we don't really understand the science behind it. And Diane, I wanted you on here because you do this beautiful job of explaining the science in layman's terms, so even I can understand, someone who's not nearly close to being a scientist. So I wanted to share your knowledge with our viewers. We also wanted to talk about how it impacts mental health, because obviously that is a huge component of what we try to get across here on First Alarm Family First. But Diane, we welcome you. Can you please share with our audience what got you on the quest, if you will, to dive into everything that is turmeric?
I decided to go to the very beginning because I think what I can possibly contribute is when I had the first event that led me down this path in my life. It was 20 years ago, and I had a traumatic brain injury. I was with my family and got out of the pool. It was a big one of those gorgeous Marriotts, or the great big ones. I got out, and there wasn't a drain, and I slipped. And I literally did a 180 on the left side of my head and cracked my skull and was unconscious and taken to the emergency room. Fast forward 2 years later, I had not healed. It was subsequent to one of our regular big drops in the economy that we seem to have, and so my husband got a wonderful job as a CEO of a company in Austin, Texas. So we moved there, and absent my family, absent everything, absent all my company, absent my furniture, my everything, small apartment, I just dove into the computer because he inspired me. You just got to do this. You can do this. I was on Alzheimer's medication because 2 years later, they had determined that there was nothing that was going to help me. I had been on antidepressants and all sorts of farms. Well, one morning I just threw it all away. I knew that even the things that weren't direct farm or indirect, that were chemicals, were just not good. And I couldn't find anything. I literally couldn't find anything in any of our PubMeds. I couldn't find anything that was helpful. So I went into Asian universities. I started with Japan and went from there. And what I found out is probably the most common sense thing that I will tell your audience, and you're going to be surprised because it's not turmeric first. The most common sense thing: abandon the American diet to the extent that you can. Abandon all processed foods, abandon them. Eat as much fermented food as you can. What I was so impressed with over and over and over were the medical studies that were done in Asia on the benefits of fermented foods. I mean, everything from miso to kimchi and kefir and all of it. And so I thought, well, there's no harm in trying. At that point, nobody knew anything about the gut-brain axis. It wasn't known. It wasn't known that our gut is literally our immunity. That's where our immunity begins. And if we trash our gut with foods that just don't work, then no matter what we take, we're not going to get optimal results. You can't just pop a supplement and get an optimal result. We have to first look at our own responsibility towards our health and what we can do to support the communication. There's a direct, believe it or not, it sounds bizarre. It's like something out of a weird movie, but our gut actually talks to our brain. And the way it talks is through the nervous pathways, the neuronal pathways that link it. So when the brain needs something, needs energy, needs nutrients, it gets it from the gut. And when turmeric's there, oh my goodness, it's like the most fabulous story you could write. Turmeric literally lights up the gut. It has these special types of starches that the microbes go, it's like alcohol to microbes. They just can't get enough. And they multiply and diversify and create this immune system in our gut, even from just a short-term use of them. So that came later. But initially, I really had to clean up my act. I was overweight. I had to lose weight. I had to quit trying to just, as mothers do, we just try to make everybody happy with food. I said, forget you. You go take care of yourself. I'm going to survive. So that's what I did. And then turmeric came along, and I was fermenting herbs. I learned how to ferment, kimchi and miso and do things. I couldn't do them very well, but I did some of them really well, like kefir and natto and so forth. So anyway, to get to the bottom of this, I figured out that when I fermented herbs, something very special happened, believe it or not, to my skin. I couldn't believe it. It was just dramatic. And so I focused on the herbs, and then turmeric came along. And I didn't ever expect my husband to take me seriously, but I wanted to grow turmeric. He just went crazy and moved 6,000 plants in our yard. We have a pretty big yard. Anyway, I began the experimentation with that. So I have to begin my story now by stopping and asking you, does this surprise you that I went in this direction? That if we don't fix our gut, it doesn't make any difference what happens to us. We're not going to experience what we want.
No, it's absolutely, it makes perfect sense how like the gut and the brain are all like related, how you can cure yourself just by eating well and watching what you eat. For someone hearing this for the first time, can you explain simply what turmeric does for the body and mind?
There's something called crosstalk, and it's a scientific term, but it's been given that because the metabolites that develop in our gut, when we have a healthy gut, it can break anything down into what's called metabolites. They're very, very, very small molecular weight molecules. They're so small that they can fit on the back of a microbe, hop onto the nervous system through the vagus nerve, and go anywhere in the body they're needed. Turmeric has 253 different known compounds. The turmeric oil in it has another 73, I think, very specific oils that are compounds. And together, they're magnificent in addressing all kinds of needs. So I'm going to give you a little story. It's an explanation, the best one I can think of. After COVID, we were at the beach celebrating the fact that we just could get out and just leave everything. We went down to Sanibel, you know where that is, and had a wonderful time. But somehow in that process, I got COVID in my eye. I got psoriasis in my eye from having COVID, and nobody knew what it was. I went to ophthalmologists, I went to dermatologists, and they didn't know, have a clue what it was. Well, it turned out it was psoriasis. It just happened to start in my eye. Then it got on my face, and it got on my chest. And I won't do it now because it'd be too horrific. But if I were to show you a picture of my face and my chest, like horrible blisters, oozing blisters, awful. And the dermatologist put me on medications. I threw them away because I'd already been down that road. I knew that wasn't right. So I went and did some deep research. Any of us can do it now with Grok and ChatGPT. I did it several years ago, and I found out there was a formula in China that was almost 3,000 years old that dealt with it. They didn't call it psoriasis; they called it something, but I knew what it was. And they combined turmeric, which they call the king of herbs, with 3 other herbs. So I steeped the other herbs, added turmeric to it, began drinking it. And even yesterday, I went to my physician for a well check, and she had the beginnings of psoriasis all over her arms. And I said, Angie, I can fix that. She said, what? I've had this for months and months, and my friends have it. What is it? I said, it can go away, but you have to combine turmeric with 3 other herbs and drink it every day. It's bitter, but who cares? Women, we just do not care. So I've proven it now for all these years that it works. And there have been many other things, that are genetic in my family, like gout and other things. But the point is that turmeric is profoundly effective in mental health. What I needed back in that first experience was the belief in my own mental function, because I was told my IQ had dropped by 20 points. And I thought, can I ever get this back? And when I began to ferment turmeric and other herbs, I got it back. As a matter of fact, I'm not bragging, but it went higher. It did. It really did.
You took your personal experiences, you did something about it. I know firsthand that you share your knowledge with so many other people, but I think this is a really important thing. I mentioned at the top that, we've heard about turmeric for years. I remember buying golden milk, a long, long time ago, 10 plus years ago. But what a lot of people don't understand, and this is what separates, in full disclosure, your company, the American Tumeric Company, from others, is where they're getting their turmeric, where they're getting their curcumin. It matters.
It really does matter. We just were on the phone last week with a company that called us and asked us if we could provide wholesale to them. They've been buying the cheapest stuff from places, and just never mind where it's from, but they don't test it. They just put it in capsules and sell it on Amazon. We said, no, thank you. We're not interested in selling it. Yes, it matters greatly. That's why we test everything we do. Now, we began growing turmeric, and so the first product we made was with raw turmeric called Herrera. It has oil, it has everything. And a little funny story about that is that from my experiences with fermenting, I wanted to ferment it and just sell it that way. USDA said no. They kept telling me no, 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 until we convinced them that the person who finally agreed grew up in India. Their grandmother gave them the same thing I was making. It was ancient fermented turmeric. He said you can make it anytime you make it the way you're doing it. You keep doing it. So that was our first product. But people want capsules. The problem with Americans is we want fast and quick. I'm hoping that's changing because the best turmeric is the whole turmeric. What we do is we ferment powders, turmeric powder, and we make our own oil from the roots, and we test everything to make sure there's no lead, there's no pesticide residue. The problem with just having a USDA certification is that's no guarantee. That's simply no guarantee. The only guarantee you have is an independent lab that tests to make sure you don't consume the residues from glyphosates, which are chemicals. Glyphosates are basically the chemicals that remain after you apply a herbicide or a pesticide or any of those things. And so you can hide from that behind a USDA label. I'm hoping that this message will reach people and they'll say, well, I guess I should demand it on everything I buy. If I'm spending the money, I need to require the test.
Yeah, know what the labels mean.
Have you seen any like research or anything as far as in helping with like anxiety, depression, PTSD?
Enormous. The best benefit that turmeric has actually, I think, in the body. It takes longer to work with things like cancer and diabetes and heart disease, but the brain axis with the gut is so powerful that you can turn depression, anxiety. PTSD is a little more complex. I've read about the pathways it follows, and it's in its own unique category, but it's absolutely reversible. But again, it's not just the turmeric. It's got to be lifestyle. And we can't feel good if we're putting chemicals inside of us that make us feel bad.
We talk about that all the time, that it's not a one-step fix, right? And I saw some of the research, Diane, that you had shared with me a while back, and maybe for some people it's combining things, to start to get on the right path, but it's making different choices, making those lifestyle changes. I struggled with this in the beginning, understanding the difference between curcumin and turmeric. What is a product of the other? How does that work? Because a lot of times you see bottles with labels and it's like curcumin, and then sometimes you see turmeric. Can you explain that, please?
I can explain how the question arose in the way that it did. I've tracked the pharmaceutical development of synthetic curcumin, and it began in 1996 with experimentations on how you can convert curcumin into a drug. That's what pharmaceuticals do. They take plants, they copy the efficacy of that plant with a chemical form that is not names for it, but it's just not natural. So it can cause side effects and so forth. Anyway, curcumin itself was used in all the scientific studies rather than the turmeric. Because when you look at the cost, millions and millions of dollars that go into clinical trials, they can only test one compound. Turmeric has 250 something compounds. So they couldn't test turmeric itself and come out of the clinical trial with an assessment of what 253 things do, but they can with curcumin. So curcumin is very important. It's one of the most potent, really, chemicals on the earth. It's a natural plant-made chemical. That's why turmeric is called the king of herbs, because once you combine all of these elements, the oils that are in turmeric with all the other compounds and curcumin, so we make a product that has elevated amounts of curcumin because when you have certain diseases, these clinical trials have shown that a certain number of milligrams a day of curcumin is going to be efficacious. Now, did I just go off on a tangent? You didn't understand any of that?
No, no, no. I think you're good. You're good. I thought that was actually quite succinct. I think that's good.
Do you often pair turmeric with other herbs or practices that are greater benefits?
Well, if you take turmeric with just ordinary things like beetroot powder, berberine, things that you know what berberine is. Berberine's the plant that's behind Ozempic. That's what Ozempic comes from. It's berberine. And you can combine turmeric with, look it up on most anything, any site. Probably do a lot better with Grok or ChatGPT. Just find out you have a particular thing. What should you combine turmeric with? If our company had done something we just are learning how to do now, we would be in a lot more households. And that is, turmeric is a miracle. It's a plant miracle, but it has the capacity to potentiate or increase the value of all other plants that is put with. Anything is put with. It just makes them work better. So that's why it was called the King of Herbs. I think that the best thing we can do is, in order to reach people so they understand, is address turmeric and curcumin for what they are. They're a miracle. I've just never been willing to say that until now. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of our customers tell me of the miracles in their life. It is a miracle. And
It's
so, yeah, it's a mental miracle. We ought to have a mentalmiracle.com.
We need
yeah, and that's what I think there's so much priority and focus, right, put on the aesthetic, like physically, how are things going to help us? I think in recent years, thankfully, I know on this journey that Carolyn and I have been on, we've obviously seen the importance of focusing on mental health as well. You mentioned some of the products that you guys carried. It's for animals too. I love that. I love on your website that you have something for animals. So someone with a geriatric dog, I appreciate that.
We call it puppy power, but it
Yeah.
really is for older dogs. And it's a combination of turmeric with four other wonderful things: spinach, pumpkin, beets, and I can't remember the other one, but it's the combination of what works for dogs to give them all the antioxidants and to get that boost from the turmeric too.
Yeah. It just shows the possibilities really are endless when it comes to the product.
And the oils are amazing for skin. If you take 1 or 2 drops of the oil and put them in a moisturizer, it helps to heal the inflammation that we get in our skin, or helps heal just anything that happens to our skin. Plus, we put chemicals on our skin every day with makeup, and it helps counteract that too when you clean your face. So I can't say enough about turmeric oils. They're amazing.
Yeah, especially I think with such demanding schedules everybody has. Like, what are some like safe and practical ways like first responders or anyone really can incorporate turmeric?
I've got one, and I made a video of it, and it kind of went viral because it was so funny. I just did this. We were doing a video a couple of years ago, and the videographer was not doing what I wanted. So I said, wait a minute. I said, just stop. And I said, I'm going to do something I want to do now instead of what you're shooting. I went and got a glass, and I just squeezed a whole bunch of honey in it, like a tablespoon of honey, and took a tablespoon of turmeric powder, minute turmeric powder, put it in the glass, and took I use chopsticks a lot. So I just gooed it up with chopsticks, just gooed it up so it was nice and gooey. And if you do that, and then you can put anything in it. I mean, any kind of juice. You can put yogurt. You can put anything you want in it, and just put it in your refrigerator, or put it in just like that. And then when you make a smoothie, you just pour some in.
Yeah.
It's so simple. Or if you want to, but I don't even bother with smoothies. I don't have time anymore. What I do is I just take some of that wonderful goo, put it in put it on whatever I have. I put it on anything I want to. Usually juice. Usually I take pomegranate juice, cranberry juice, kefir because I have kefir every day, and just goo it in with that. Drink it. So you just make a whole bunch of it. I may take 8 or 10 tablespoons of each of those. Have a nice goo, and then you have it ready to go. And it's not much in the calorie department,
Right.
Honey's good for you.
I think that people concentrate way too much on calories and not less. They should be thinking more about chemicals, but they think too much about calories. So I think
What I did was I took the chopstick and just twirled it in there, and this is what made it funny. I twirled it and I went, It's good. Sometimes I'll just do it that way. But then you really have to brush your teeth.
yeah. Listen, we thank you, Diane. We thank you for doing your research. We thank you for doing your homework, for sharing just your wealth of knowledge here. And everybody has to do what's right for them. But I also think it's very important to expose people to different things that maybe they haven't thought about yet. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, I got to say thank you for being you, because I think you are miracle workers, because you have a heart, both of you, that really understands and feels the needs of people. And my personal journey is this: if we haven't learned to love, we haven't learned to live, right? And that both of you are power ladies.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
We remind everybody here on First Alarm, if you see something, to make sure to sound the alarm.
Save a life.
We'll see you next time.
Okay, see you next time. Bye now.